Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Analytics Mindset. This is actually another certification video. I will be going through a new certification that I got not so long ago. I hope all of you are doing well. And with that being said, let's start with the new certification that I'm here to show you around. This is the Microsoft 365 Certified Fundamental Certification. You can see here how I got this certification on July 7th of this year. It is a certification focused on Microsoft 365 products, that there is quite a bit of them actually, and how they communicate with each other. It is also defined as a basic certification too. And as always, we will go through most of this material, and all of this is property of Microsoft. I will put the description in the description of the video, all the resources I'm showing you right now. The first part for this is going to the actual exam page, the certification of the 365 Certified Fundamentals. You can see here, you have the product, when was last updated. This was updated on April. The version that I took is still the most recent. Everything that you hear in this video, by the time I post this video, that should be the 27th, October 27th, should be still relevant to the exam as it is. You can see here how you're trying to demonstrate a fundamental level knowledge of cloud-based solutions. That is what is under the umbrella of Microsoft 365. And you can prepare for those certifications as well. You also will look a lot into why we use these solutions. Microsoft 365 has a lot of emphasis on you could do this on your on-prem or on-premise facilities or yourself, but you can automate it / making a software as a service with Microsoft 365. That is the main focus of this certification. You can see how it will help improve productivity. That's a lot of automation stuff, facilitate collaboration, things about Teams, for example, optimize communications, Teams again, mostly, help secure data, identify and facilitate compliance. In this case, we're going to go into Purview and it is cooperative. You should also be able to recommend solutions by using all this stuff here. And Microsoft 365 licensing, I found it very interesting, and it actually explains a lot of things that you in your work, your employer might be dealing with it. Even if you are not in the licensing team, you might find interest in some products that Microsoft doesn't give for free, for example. Migration assistance and deployment is pretty important. Again, how can we migrate from whatever process we have right now to the Microsoft 365 suite, and what options do we need? You can see here the main preparation that I recommend you as always is this course that we will go into it later on, that has all the materials that you should need to pass this exam. You can get an in-person class somewhere over here with self-guided class and all, but I just recommend taking it. The exam will cost $99 as all of the basic stuff, all the basic exams and beginning exams in Microsoft. And will be proctored. You will need to be with somebody in watching at you for like around 1 hour or 45 minutes or so. With that being said, let's go ahead into the actual study guide. You can see here what is going to be reviewed here as of April 15, 2024. So the first thing is you are not expected to know anything about Microsoft 365. This is a true beginner certification. You are not assumed to know anything. Obviously, if you know, it's going to make your life easier, but you do not need to know anything. You should have some knowledge of cloud-based solutions. Just how the cloud works and the difference between platform as a service, software as a service, etc. As we said before, these are the main topics that you're going to be taking and what recommendations you should be able to do. You can see how described cloud concepts is a very small part of the exam, almost nothing. Microsoft 365 platforms and services is almost half of it. You want to know your services. You want to know this is a service. This is what I need to do. This is the service. This is what it does. Between two services, there might be some overlap. When do you use it for one thing versus another thing, etc. Up to your own personal guidance, but I would strongly recommend you to go through all the Microsoft 365 apps and have at least an idea of what they do. Security, compliance, privacy, and trust in Microsoft is another big one. How do you keep your data secure? There is some considerations for the cloud, and finally, pricing, licensing, and support. You can see in cloud concept, we're going through Office 365 and Microsoft 365. You will have some level of overlap between them, but at the same time, you will need to make sure that you understand the differences and the difference between SaaS, IaaS, and PaaS. If you are not that familiar with it, I would recommend you to just go over it really quickly before this exam. You need to describe the benefits and considerations of using cloud, hybrid, or on-premise services. You have public, private, and hybrid clouds. What costs are in the cloud? That sometimes it's a big meme in the technology community that you never know how much your cloud provider is going to actually charge you. Microsoft 365, it's the biggest chunk of the exam. You'll be looking at Outlook, for example, Exchange, apps, and OneDrive, things that almost everybody has had some exposure to. Then you are going to go into the apps, including Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. They are also Office 365 and other management capabilities like project, planner, bookings, forms, lists, to do that you may not have that much exposure because it's very role dependent and not everybody has access or uses it in a day-to-day basis. Then you will look into how you can collaborate with these tools. Stream is also important here, Microsoft Viva, Microsoft Teams and Teams Phone, and other ways to use the collaborative apps. Endpoint modernization, a lot of this is going to go into Microsoft Intune, endpoint analytics, Windows Pilot, what's the difference between Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop, and Windows as a service, the important part of deployment rings. When are you in a deployment ring that is going to receive an update sooner than later, and when should you do it? Identify deployment and updates for all these Microsoft 365 apps. Maybe you want them to be updated, or the most recent version, a beta version, or maybe not. You're going to go into Viva Insights, the capabilities of Microsoft 365 Admin Center and the user portal, and other admin centers. Basically, how do you manage all of this suite of products here? In the security side of things, you're going to go a lot into cloud identity. How can you use multi-factor authentication and password reset? And how do you keep your identity private as well? For threat protection, you will look at XDR, that's a big chunk of it, Defender for Endpoint, and for all of these two. They are very similar, but at the same time, different services. The secure score and what can you do in Microsoft 365. The zero trust model is important too. You should have some exposure to it. It will be Microsoft Purview, and then how you can support all of this with Microsoft Privat too. Then we will go into the last part that is licensing, pricing, and support. How do Microsoft deals you for this? What license can you have? What's a base license versus an odd license? And how can you create requests for supports? And what are the SLAs that Microsoft gives you? And how can you get credits from it if something happens and Microsoft does not take the service up in enough time? You have these study resources too. Again, I would recommend you most the self-trained part. You do not need instructor-led course, but it is there if you want to. Documentation is there. You can use it if you want to as well. And you can see how the last time this was updated was in April 15th, and not a lot has changed. Yeah, there's some stuff that has been changed, like minor change on the audience profile. It seems that also there was some change around the endpoint modernization, and it also had a lot of other stuff. We are not going to go into the previous one, but we're going to go into the actual course now. This is the actual material that you will be able to see in the self-learning. You will need to go through first Azure Fundamentals, the cloud concepts. The biggest chunk is the Microsoft 365 fundamental apps. Then the security and compliance capabilities, and finally, the pricing, licensing, and support. You can search for training providers here if you want an actual training session and you want to do it. Actually, I'm just going to look here in, let's say, New York, because why not? And I just want to show you, well, all right, never mind, there is none. Let's just say Monday. Let's see what they offer. There you go. So you have here classes. This one is offered in the Singapore Standard Time. This one is offered in India. You have a lot of them offered. If you are interested in them and you don't mind paying the fee, you can go. But again, for this course at least, I would not recommend you to because it is a very basic course. And yeah, it's better to reduce the cost in these kind of situations. Cloud concepts. You will go into what's the cloud, how can you use the cloud, and also you will be able to experiment some free or hands-on experience with this too. I strongly recommend you to go into this and look into all of it. You're going to describe cloud computing for us. If you have no idea about this is your best friend. I will still recommend you to get somewhere else a very high-level introduction to the cloud, but this is good enough for that. Then you will go into the benefits of using cloud services. That's a very big important part of it, where high availability and scalability are one of the most important ones, and the security and governance that you can use. And finally, what are the different cloud service types, because there is not only one, and there is a lot between the SaaS and on-prem model that we usually see. Microsoft 365 fundamentals, this is half of the exam, as you can see, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. You will go into Microsoft 365. What the difference with Office 365? There is a lot of Copilot, but I found that it's less than other certifications. You are not going to be tested that much on Copilot at least. You will be able to go into productivity capabilities and then work management tools and other productivity tools too. For collaboration solutions, you have Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Viva, and Janner. And for endpoint modernization, you will look into all of Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Windows as a Service, and the Microsoft apps. And finally, the analytics capabilities, you're going to go into Viva Insights, the admin portals, and different kind of processes that you can do there. The other one is the security and compliance capabilities, another 2 hours and 46 minutes. You will go into Microsoft Entra. If you're not familiar with Entra, you should go over here, hybrid identities, external identities, etc. Then you are going to go into the security service edge solutions and role-based access control. All of these, how it protects your information and your data. Then we have a lot with XDR. You have, as you can see, every single XDR, and a lot of the questions in the exam are going to ask you which of these Microsoft Defender for what you should be using. Given this scenario, I strongly recommend you to get very familiar with any difference between each of these. Then you have the data compliance, that's going to be e-discovery and purview, and compliance manager and lifecycle management. And finally, service trust portal. You will go into the service trust, privacy principles, and Microsoft Private. Then we have the pricing, licensing, and support. For these ones, we have how it's available for licensing and options, what are the pricing models, what bills do you get, what availability do you get, etc. And the support options is the service level agreements, health status, and how do you get credit if everything goes wrong. To end this video, because I really want to keep this short, and we will go into more interesting stuff actually in the future, including back to programming, a little programming test and other machine learning. But I strongly recommend you to go through this exam. 50 questions in the self-learning. You can use it to evaluate your own capabilities and also how familiar you are with the exam so far. You can see here how it asks you. A company is to implement Microsoft productivity solution for its 500 employees. The company has high-speed internet from the cloud, and remote workers have also high-speed internet. And internet connectivity uptime is not 100%. And users must be able to collaborate within documents and create relational databases. And then you need to recommend a solution. This is what I mean by recommending it. You don't only need to know which app does what or which software does what, but also you should be able to recommend a solution. Given certain options, you need to be able to say, okay, is it service apps? Is it business app? Is it business? Is it enterprise? You need to be able to know which of them. Just to demonstrate, I'm going to put enterprise app and there you go. It's actually Microsoft 365 Enterprise. And it will show you, I do not agree with this statement because I do not consider Microsoft Access a relational database, but that is something else. Still, it is Microsoft 365 Enterprise, and after that, you can go through all of it. It recommends you to have an 80% or more. You can take it multiple times, as many times as you want. And also, questions are different depending on when you actually get it. You can repeat it as many times as you want. I recommend you to at least do it twice, just to be sure. And with all of that, you have seen that the exam prep time shouldn't be that much. Probably, I would recommend you anywhere between 10 to 12 hours in total, spread between maybe a week. It is not a difficult exam, but it helps having a background in information technology or having being familiar with a lot of these concepts too. Up to you. I really hope this video was useful to you. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback, please leave it in the comments. Give a like. Thank you. Have a good day.